Welcome to episode 10 of the Good Gossip Podcast. I'm Todd Revis.
I'm Melissa Elizondo.
Welcome back. We're super excited and scared, and because we are debuting a podcast that is remote. We have, in fact, out of state. We have two guests today that are husband and wife from Lafayette, Louisiana, and they are together, but in the same building in different offices on different cameras. And
we'll get into why later.
Yeah. Exactly. But I want to introduce them to you because one of the things I love about this podcast is that I get to introduce my friends to my friends. Mm-hmm. And there's probably very little chance that I'd ever have Michael and Jaci Russo in New Braunfels and walk around and introduce them to everybody I know. But I think it'd be great if I could, because that's just how I am. And so I want to introduce you to them professionally first, and then we'll get into the rest. But they own a company called Brand Russo, which is right up your alley because it's a marketing, branding company. Mm-hmm. And so they co-founded it in 2001. It's called Brand Russo, like I said. So Jaci is the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO.
He said awful. Did you hear that?
Huh?
Chief Executive
Chief
Awful.
Executive
I heard that.
Jaci is a brand strategist extraordinaire, over 25 years experience nationally, globally, with product launches, brand management, media management, and then Michael is the Chief Creative Officer. So he's the right brain, she's the left brain. That's what it says to me. He's got over 20 years of creative experience. He's an award-winning art director, copywriter, designer. Have some personal experience with one of his graphic designs that I love. And so, but I think I want to add something. Brand Russo is local to the town, the beautiful town that's kind of similar to New Braunfels. It's like the New Braunfels of Louisiana, I think. But it's charming, and they have really given back to the community through nonprofit organization, including Raging Cajun Athletic Foundation, Christian Youth Theater, Lafayette Little League, yes, I'm reading, United Way, Boys and Girls Club, Louisiana Honor Air, Miles Burton Cancer Services, Junior League, Acadiana, Symphony, and Healing House. And it goes on and on and on. So I just want to bring that up because they're intentional about making sure there's a balance of being successful, giving back, helping people, and we'll get into some more of that later. Yeah. But so please welcome Jaci and Michael Russo. Yay.
Yay.
Hi, guys.
Yay. Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So y'all have a book out called He Said, She Said Branding. I started reading it. I didn't. Yeah, there you go. Show right there.
Ooh, He Said, She Said.
I downloaded the Kindle version, even though I do love to hold a book. But I love how this book is written from your point of view and Mike's point of view, because like you say in the book, like it's one situation happened and you have two different points of view of how it happened, including a story that you'll probably tell us in a minute about a water bottle, but also how y'all met, how the company started, how, different things about your marriage. And in the book, like chapter 1, first thing you say is, hey, we're married and we work together, which is, I'm sure you get a lot of crazy looks and comments about that, and it's such a taboo thing to do because people feel like it will ruin your marriage. So I definitely want to get into that story, but so can you tell us a water bottle story first? I think that was really funny.
I'm trying to hook the audience in right away. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
Well, before that even, we were gonna put like an introductory statement at the beginning, like on a stunt movie, or when they're trying crazy things, like do not try this at home. Like that was like the preface.
I like it.
None of this is recommended. It is a very tough deal, but if you do it right and you have a little bit of patience and you have a common goals in mind, it usually works out.
Yeah.
I also think that all of the world got a little taste of our relationship in 2020 because everybody found themselves at home working together with their spouse for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of comments from my friends like, I had no idea my husband was let's circle back on that guy. And so I'm like, let me tell you the things I've heard my husband say in the past 20 years. We all learn a lot working together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about COVID, though, and marriages, there was a high divorce rate. It's hard to do. Yeah.
It's really hard to be together 24/7. In our situation, we work together all day. And when we get home and Michael wants to complain about that kind of jerk coworker that's being a little demanding about deadlines and not being very nice in a meeting, that's me. So he wants to complain to me about me and vice versa. So it's like there's no outlet. We don't have a life outside of each other, or at least we didn't for a long time. I think we're getting a lot better about that now because we've realized we need outside to come back together and have something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, even in my life, I don't tell my wife everything all day long because I want to save something to say when I get home. Because if they know everything, there's nothing to talk about when you get home. So I get that.
Right.
On the micro level, I get that.
Now you have to do that. You have to work together, live together, raise kids together. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how you survived. Tell me how you're not dead.
Well, I think a lot of it is. I mean, we're the last people to give marriage advice. I assure you of that. But I think the hardest part would, love is easy. Having a roommate is hard. Because you have a roommate, and think about your roommates you've had before you got married, if you're married, and usually those end badly. Usually when somebody like, okay, I'm moving out, I can't live with your habits anymore. You don't clean up after yourself. Something about what they do, the way they eat their cereal in the morning, something annoys you about them. And the longer you're married, the more those things kind of annoy you. And so you have to have some kind of stable relationship and goals in mind to work through those things. And it does bleed into our, like you're talking about the water bottle thing. There was an instance, and we wrote about it in the book. And
tell the truth now.
We see it very differently. We were in a meeting with our entire staff, and she said something that I didn't like, and I playfully tossed an empty water bottle at her. I was like, "Oh, quit being silly," and I like that. Now, the way she describes it later on is that I threw a half-empty water bottle at her head. Now, it could not be more further from the truth. It was lightly tossed water bottle. And it was
so to be clear, there were 3 of us in the room, not the whole staff. Jessica has confirmed my version, the truth of events. I was listening to Michael tell Jessica something. He thinks I rolled my eyes. Not I rolled my eyes. He thinks I rolled my eyes. And he overhand threw a half-full water bottle at my head. That's the fact.
I'm pretty sure it was underhand toss.
Well, to be clear, it's now published in a book, and our editors had to fact check everything. So
that's true. It's made it through
right.
that. So, well, our very first podcast guest was Judge Stephanie Bastrom. She's a Texas State District Judge assigned to our area, and she talked about 4 truths. There's your truth, their truth, what the judge believes to be true, and what God knows is true. So I think you should run it through that filter. God's true.
I'm pretty comfortable that 3/4 of those filters align with me.
Yeah, and I get the whole roommate thing. Like my long-standing best friend, we've been best friends since high school. We've lived together 3 times now. And each time I had to move out before the relationship ended because it was just getting bad. Like we're just different people. But fast forward several years later, I got to hire her to come work for my company 3 years ago. And she completely turned my business around because she has strengths and lives a different way than I do. And so she's organized, she values money.
Her name is Kim, and she is Jackie. And and Melissa is Michael.
Yeah. And
every pair needs that yin and the yang. That's the whole principle of the book, is that branding is creative and strategy. Marriage is 2 people who bring very opposite skill sets together. Those are the best relationships. My best friend, Melissa, is the girl version of Michael all day long. She actually set us up on our first date.
Oh.
And Cody's wife, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yes, exactly. Bowen now. But so you need that. If everybody in the world was exactly like me, we would function a lot better, but it wouldn't be as much fun. No, it'd be a lot of fun, but there wouldn't be as much conflict.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Melissa has learned the hard way when she owned a real estate brokerage, a property management company and real estate brokerage here. And so she decided to hire an assistant. Well, she hired a plaything. She hired a little mini Melissa to ride
another
around
one
the
of
car
me.
with her and make her laugh. But they got nothing done.
We got nothing done. Like we were out doing the same things. We were out shaking hands, kissing babies, going to events, building relationships, but nobody was back at the office doing the tedious work, the stuff that needed attention.
Or driving the schedule, driving the deadlines.
Yeah.
You bring up Melissa, and that made me remember to ask you, during the pandemic, I started seeing a lot more social interaction between you and her. I think you interviewed her on a podcast.
We did.
Because she does psychology, social work, some really neat stuff, and we could probably have her on too, really, because of how her heart. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you have a podcast? Is it active? Is it archived? Can people go watch it and learn?
It is active. During the pandemic, it was weekly because we knew people needed that. And we focused a lot on pandemic pivots and how people were surviving. And then as we've gotten busier and our guests have gotten busier, it's really rolled more to monthly. But you can find it on the Brand Russo Facebook page, YouTube page, and then there's an actual download on Apple iTunes podcast called Raise Your Branding Podcast.
Raise Your Branding. We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah. I have a question though. As a couple, let's say when you decided to open Brand Russo, was that a vision that y'all both shared, or did one of you want it and you brought the other one into the idea? How did that work?
Neither of the above. Actually, he was working for one agency, I was working for another. We got married, had a honeymoon surprise. So 10 months later, we had our first baby before we had our first anniversary. And, when we got married, we'd only known each other 10 months. And so it was all very quick. And I used up all my vacation time to go on our honeymoon and then to take the 3 days of maternity leave that I was entitled to at my job.
Oh my gosh.
And so then we were pregnant again a few months later, and it wasn't sustainable. I wanted to spend time with my kids, and I needed to take time off, more than 3 days for maternity leave. And so Michael's dad, actually, we were at Sunday dinner at their house one day and said, "You'll never get ahead as a W-2 worker." And I was like, I don't know what that means. Explain. And so he kind of walked us through why we needed to take our talents and go on our own. And Michael was like, "You need to do that. You need to do that right now." And I said, "And do what?" The concept of a freelance marketing director had never occurred to me. And so he said, "Media buyer, start as a media buyer," which I knew freelance media buyers. So I knew that was an option. And I was, 6, 7, 8 months pregnant, waddling into these companies, and people were hiring me. And so before we had number 2, I had enough client business, just media buying, to replace 2 times my regular income.
Nice.
Wow.
And Michael hadn't got on board yet, so that was just you.
Well, in about 5 minutes,
yeah.
all of those clients needed creative work. Every time I had a media buying client with a TV schedule, they needed a TV spot. Radio schedule, they needed a radio spot. Print schedule, because people still read the newspaper back then, they needed print ads. Mm-hmm. And so Michael would do a full day at the regular agency he was working at, and then a full day for me at our company. And so finally, after a few months, he's like, "You have more work than my real agency. We've got it. This isn't sustainable." And so it was about 6 months, I think, from when we started kind of this freelance media shop to being a full service, technically, ad agency between the two of our talents.
And that was 2001, roughly.
Yeah.
And
so it was 4 weeks before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Isn't it amazing how we can, certain dates, we can say, "Oh, yeah, it was right before that." Because I remember the first time we flew to Little Rock, Arkansas in October to go to a quartet competition right after that. And it was the first time we flew post 9/11. So I'll always relate that. So I don't know what year it was, but, let me introduce this real quick. We'll get back to serious stuff. But I sing in a quartet. A lot of our fans know that I sing in a barbershop style, a cappella, gospel type quartet. And so did Michael. And they're like us. They're 25 years later, but they still love each other, still like to hang out. And when they're hanging out, they might as well sing because they know some songs. And so we're kind of the same way. And they invited us. So both of Michael and Jackie went to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, Raging Cajuns. And they sang, and Michael was in a fraternity for music with these other guys. That's how they met. And I guess the music building is somewhere around McKinley Street in Lafayette, and they named their quartet McKinley Street Function, which is cool. So they invited us down there for a fundraiser. They wanted to give back to the fraternity, donate money to the fraternity for scholarships and such, and said, "Hey, Sterling, we'll pay for Sterling's the name of my group. We'll pay for y'all to get here, to eat, and to sleep, and y'all do a show." And so we did. And so we got to stay at their house. I've been at the Russo mansion and
Jaci.
above the garage. So I'm trying to think. The reason I even brought this up is because I remember above the garage, I think there's like a big romper room. And Michael had his desk in there, and that's where he did his creative stuff. So at that point, when Sterling visited you, had you already started Brand Russo, or were you in the middle of it, or Michael, were you completely self-employed at that time?
No, we were there. I was just working. I was actually working from home. We were moving into a new space at the time, so I was kind of working from home. And then that was before we moved to our current location downtown. So it was right before.
So it must have been after 2002 or 3 when
Yeah, so when we first started, we rented a little office suite downtown adjacent. And it was, 4 rooms, like a lawyer accounting firm, nothing fancy. Well, all of a sudden, within 3 years, we had 10 employees in 900 square feet. It was not sustainable. So we bought a building downtown. And so we bought and moved into a 7,000 square foot building right in the center of downtown Lafayette, rehabbed it, and it's awesome. It's my favorite place I've ever worked, and I love it.
Yeah, you would love it, Todd. It's got great acoustics.
Cool.
Tall ceilings, brick wall. Yeah, it really rings. It's very nice. They actually, you know what? On a total side note, and
The grain.
one of our clients. Oh my God, we were on a tour with a client the other day, and he does rice farming, and actually he has this really cool high protein, low glycemic index rice that he harvests, and it's just amazing. It's gonna change the world, I think. But anyway, we got to go in these new bins that he has. I don't know if you've ever seen these things. But
like the silos?
Yes.
Silos, yes. We were in a brand new empty silo, and we stood in the middle. And as you whispered, it echoed. It was.
Have you seen
it was a dream.
Michael? Maybe you could use that as part of your branding for them. But get a choir, a really good a cappella choir of some sort, or you can in the street, and go and sing there and record it. There's one of those on Facebook. It's a Christian thing, like a gospel thing, and these people stand around in a silo and they record it. I'll try to find it on YouTube and send it to you.
This was special. It was like
That's
really
cool.
like a whisper. You could just rotate, and it just kept going. It kept going and going. It was beautiful. Yeah,
that's
so, like
cool.
I like to say officially when people ask, like it's funny in my other life I call it. As we go through many lives growing up, like the people that work for me, we have a really young staff right now, and they know me as a certain person, and they have no idea. Like, yeah, Jackie will make a reference to I used to sing, and I'm like, they're like, really, him? Like, I don't understand. I'm like, yeah, I used to do it all the time. Like, we were really into it for a while. We traveled, we recorded, did all kind of stuff, and so now when they say, I refer to it as I'm officially retired, but we bounce out of retirement every once in a while when it's convenient.
Yeah. So Michael did our logo. So Sterling has a unique logo. It has kind of like a Superman-esque, but it's really cool in 3D in this diamond, and it's I can pull it up, but it's something we're very proud of, and it's lasted the test of time, standing the test of time, and stood the test of time. And we're very proud of it, and we owe it all to him. And he didn't charge us for it. It was back when he was young. And
there's an invoice coming.
She's like, let me get that going.
There's Kim.
Todd,
I know.
easy on the free stuff, man.
That was back in the day. He doesn't do that anymore.
No, he does. He secretly does free stuff all the time. And every time I catch him, I'm like, now I have to bill these people. Stop doing free stuff.
That sounds like Kim.
I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh,
Kim.
I do that all the time, Michael, on you. I do free work all the time. In fact, I was making a list of all the projects I had this week, and then I had 5 that were free things that I'm doing for friends,
That's,
They're friends.
That's the thing. Well, the key is, and I'll let it out, the truth is, if you know me, is that if you ask me nicely, I'll say yes. I mean, I have a really hard time saying no. Especially when it's something that's benefiting someone else and they're not trying to, if it's a company and they're trying to, make a lot of money, that's one thing. But if it's just somebody who's doing a fundraiser or they have a self project, if I can lend my talents to that and help them out, I like being part of it. It's a creative outlet,
That's how we got our 4th kid.
Pretty much.
That's funny. I did the same thing during COVID. There was a bunch of people just opening up little side hustles, little jewelry making stuff, real artisan type stuff that could not afford a full blown logo with what we normally charge. So I talked to my team and I'm like, are y'all willing to help some people out for a little while? So we just did a couple of months where we did these really cheap logos, and they still got great quality work, but it was all our orders at that time were just these little entrepreneurs, little
That's
artisans and
that's a
stuff.
great segue into what Jaci's done.
Oh yes, I love that. So you created Brand University, or it's Brand
BrandStateU.com.
Brand State
Brand
U,
State U,
yeah,
yeah.
very university. Like I love that. And I was telling Todd before the show, I said, a year ago I took a course on how to create a course because I wanted to help these people who just really couldn't afford agency pricing, but I wanted to help them because I just knew that there's information and you've created that. So I don't have to create it now. I can just send people to you, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
And I remember when it debuted, remember we messaged a few times a couple of years ago, and it was like, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, as a realtor, I thought, man, that'd be perfect because it's like, I'd still have to beg my wife to let me do it from a budgeting standpoint, family budgeting standpoint, and I didn't do it. And that was why, because it was like, I'm one of those guys, I just couldn't part with the money, even though it probably would have benefited me greatly. And I felt bad because I was like, I just clicked the button, like, yeah, I'll have her information. And then it was like, hey, Todd, how's it going? And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to say no to her. I hate that. But I'm like, what is it?
but you have $1 free trial, like a week, and you can go at your own pace. And
you teach classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a curriculum.
So most owners of companies, I find, are very tactically focused. I need social media. I need a brochure. I need a website. I need an ad campaign. And they don't really know that that's what they need. They just think they do. And they don't really know how to do it the right way for them. They look at what a competitor's doing or another business, and it's got to be different than that. And so we take people through, in the brandstateu.com website, recorded classes with company workbooks to teach them how to create the right branding and marketing strategy for their company in the size it is right now, in the location it is right now, and in the growth pattern it's in right now. So no more copycatting off of somebody else. This allows you to do the right thing for you, to figure out who your target audience is, why those people should pick you, what you need to say to them to cut through the clutter, and then where you need to say it.
Yeah, I love that. One of the I had a client that had a boutique, and for years they always had a back to school photo shoot every summer right before school started. And then we decided we come on board and we survey their clients, and we find out that none of their clients had kids at home. None of them. They were all retired or women who were wealthy, sort of things like that. So we immediately pivoted that photo shoot into more teachers and college students versus kids. And we would have never known that if we hadn't taken the time to figure out who their audience really was, because they thought their audience was somebody that it wasn't. And once the results came out of their survey and we figured out who and created those top 2 personas, like, they knew it. They knew that that's what their client was. They've been seeing it. It just validated it for them.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's hard nowadays. There's so many media channels, so many opportunities, so many people try to sell you things. Radio stations, if you're in, a media rep says, I have the best station ever, and we have the best this, and we have the best that. Well, so does this other person, so does the other person. And then you start talking about, what makes you special. Well, we have great service. Well, you know what? So does everybody. And if it's not something that you can back up, it gets a little more tough now. So how do I set myself apart? And the BSU thing, which is I'm not involved with at all. This is Jaci's brainchild, and it's her, because she has a lot of nationally public speaking, and she comes into small groups and tells them how to better manage this and that. She's like, why don't I just take all this content, I'll put it online, make it accessible. And one of the biggest things is with this program, which if I was on the outside looking in, I would take advantage of, is because you get access with her at certain levels. And that is, to have, an experienced strategist to be able to just run ideas by can change your life. To say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, I'm having a problem here. And for somebody that knowledge to come in and say, you know what? I wouldn't do this. I would do this. Sometimes just having that voice in your ear can make a big difference, and that's what people pay agencies a lot of money for, is to have that advice. And not everybody can afford that. For us, we've gotten big enough to where we have a lot of electricity bills to pay for and mouths to feed. We have a big staff, and our level of experience is big with dealing with big companies, But for somebody who's just starting up, they don't need all that necessarily right away, nor could they afford it. So this gives an opportunity to step into that world and get some real world advice, which is kind of invaluable,
Yeah. One of the things that y'all do that I love is that it's not only real world advice, it's layman's terms. It's talking to people where they are at the knowledge that they have. If you're meeting with somebody who's a brand new owner or a younger owner of a company, they're not speaking agency speak if they've never worked with an agency before. So a lot of that lingo makes no sense to them and goes over their head. And unlike a lot of people that work for me, I don't have agency experience. I started this with real estate experience and a business degree, but I hired people from agency, and I had to get used to some of the terms that they were saying and interpret that to my clients to take what they were saying and bring it to them in a language that they understood. And I love that y'all do that too. I think it's so important. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with some of the bigger agencies talking to some of these younger owners and business owners.
Yeah, we're not slick like that. Like our conference room here is a bunch of couches. And we're not boardroom type. Well, we can dress up and play the part, but generally we're pretty down to earth. And the book, that's what really the whole book is about. Once you get past some of the early stuff, we break down our interpretation of what branding is. And I think a lot of people get stuck on terms like branding, and it's so overused these days, and people think it's a logo, they think it's a company, they think it's this or that. For us, it's about emotional connections with products or services or companies, and we really try to break down we call them the 5 R's, which is our, I don't know, what would you call it, Jackie? Our statement of what
like
branding
mission
is.
statement.
Yeah, but it really codes it down though. It's about each step, and you start to see the value of it and how it can value even the smallest company. People think, well, that's for Nikes and that's for Coca-Colas. No, it's for the mom and pop down the street if you do it right. If people have an emotional connection with you, they will give you business, they will trust you, they will come back to you, they will refer you, and that's the biggest part of it all, right? What do you want? What's the biggest form of advertising? It's referrals, right? It's when somebody touts you, somebody says, oh, you've got to try that restaurant because I've been there and it's so good. They can't wait to spread the good news, right? Mm-hmm. They can't wait to go out and tell you how great this restaurant was or how great this product was. They want to be the first adopters. They want to be the ones that says, have you seen this TV show? Yeah. And when you get that kind of advocacy, which sometimes is helped through advertising and messaging, then you're on the easy street,
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us one of the 5s? Just teaser for the book. One Jackie. Of the 5 R's.
Michael. React. Relate. Come on, realize. You can do it. Realize, exactly. For me, I think it's a two-prong approach, and you see it in the book and you see it in Brand State U. When we talk about the 5 R's, it's reacting, making sure you're putting out the right thing for people to react to, being relatable. It's got to be something that people can connect, realizing that you don't own your own reputation. It's what other people think of you. That's the kind of theories. Then you get into razor branding, which is the trademark process that we've developed. That's the actual action, because that's where we get to hold you by the hand and take you through focus, who you need to be focusing on, promise, why you, what makes you special, connection, those messages that are going to connect with people. When you think about your different target audiences, and I go back to the clothing store, the boutique you were talking about, some of those target audiences are teachers. Well, they've got a certain mindset about what they're wearing and how they need to look. Very different when it's going out on a date with a friend. And so you've got real different approaches to wardrobe, right? Mm-hmm. And to budget. And so they need to zero in on those different target audiences and have the right messages for them. And then where those messages go, that's harmony. Because you've got to make sure all your messages are going to work together. And so that's, to me, really what the book does, is it takes this complicated branding jargon and boil it down to something really simple that every business owner can understand and use to save money and get better results from their advertising.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow.
Okay, can we get back to your marriage? Do you have a 5 R's of marriage or something, some tips that you can give people, or even relationships? Like, I know y'all have a marriage that you have to worry about, but I work with my best friend, and because of that, we're always talking. But we're never talking, And so we've decided to make time for ourselves every Friday. So Friday afternoons, we're going to get together and just spend friend time, because until my daughter's baby shower recently, we haven't had a day where we just sat and didn't talk about work. And I really appreciated that day with her of just enjoying the family and, getting ready for my grandbaby.
Yeah. So how do you guys turn it off?
Yeah. So what do you do? Or do you not?
Well, there's a bunch of ways. I mean, like Jack, we have 4 kids, so that is a great balance. of separation, because we are very involved with them and their lives. I mean, they're a little old. We have a son that's a junior in college. We have a daughter that's a sophomore in college. We have a rising freshman in college, and then we have a senior in high school. So we're getting to the point now where we're less and less hands-on with them. But for the past 20 years, it's been every day is about them, really. And so our lives have been centered around their activities and our involvement with them. And so that's been a great help, I guess, to balance that,
Because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and I think Jackie says, like, she has this thing, like, you can't go in her room after 9, like you can't.
10, but yes.
Yeah, but like kids, anything, like she shuts it down, and we have certain daughters that like to fight that and just mess with their head. They'll just jump into bed like, I want to spend time with you, and she's like, no, it's my time, it's me time, And I think we both have that to a certain extent. Like after a certain hour, we kind of just shut down and put everything away and go our separate ways, so we have our own time. Is really the most important part. I think is integral to that, if that makes sense.
And I also think it's about commitment. When we made the commitment, we said and took very seriously that it's forever. And it's been hard. There are definitely times when we have not gotten along. We do not see eye to eye on things. But if I was to break down the 3 components of our marriage, being married to each other and parents together, roommates, and then working together, the hardest one of those is being roommates. And as long as I can remind myself that the things he does most often that bother me the most are stupid roommate things, we can get through just about anything.
I love that.
Something recently about that too. It was like something's more important to you than it is to the other person sometimes. Like I want things picked up. I want the kitchen clean before
closing cabinet doors, putting the seat down. Sure.
Yeah. And some things are just more important to the other person, and the other person doesn't really necessarily mean to do it. They're just living their life,
I wanted to go back to something Jackie hit on, that you decided this was going to be forever, right? And
yeah.
I remember the moment in my marriage when I just had this epiphany, and I told my wife right away. I said, when you're born, you have brothers and sisters, siblings, and parents. You don't get to choose those. You're blood connected, right? And so when you fight with them, it's like in this place where you'll never stop being my brother, but I hate you right now and I'm going to fight you, right? You can't. I mean, you could legally, I guess, go to court and say we're whatever. Everything has an extreme, but in the realm of normal. So one day I just felt this closeness to her, and I said, it's like we're blood, like we're one. Spiritually, we're one. We're two become one. So we're like, I think of you like I can never get rid of you, like you're family forever. And now if we argue from that place, then you're arguing for a solution eventually, because leaving is not an option. Quitting is not an option. Divorce is not an option. So you can fight a little differently, knowing that there's bumpers around it that won't allow you to go too far. And we just never have thought of divorce is not an option. So I love that.
But Todd, it's interesting because that's how we approach it also. This is committed forever. The life insurance isn't big enough to bring the end yet. So this is forever. But the challenge, I think, sometimes when you have that approach is then you can take advantage of it because you know the other person's not leaving, so you coast. And so I think it's about making sure that there's no coasting, that you're always putting in 100% and understanding that it may not be 100% every day, so you're going to have that ebb and flow, but you've got to work through it to get back to that good place.
Yeah. And Jackie reads a lot of relationship books, so she's quoting right now from something, I'm sure.
Oh, my.
No, not at all, actually. Thanks for the
just
shot.
Messing with her.
You know what? That insurance policy did just become big enough.
I'm texting with my broker right now.
Yeah. At the end of the day, and again, we're not marriage experts. We're not marriage experts by any means, but like I said, I think at the end of the day, we, like I said, the commitment things. But I mean, I'm sure you guys know this too. At like I guess about 10 years ago, like in my like 40s or so, I started seeing a lot of my contemporary friends and contemporaries, my age group, and nothing against them. And look, if you decide you want a different path, that's fine. But they were all like, there were so many separations and divorces going on around us, and like. And immediate remarriages, like they were jumping back into marriage right away, and they found and good for them. I mean, that's awesome for that, But I've never looked at, and I think Jackie has as well. She would admit to it, but I've never looked at any other yards. I've never looked and hoped that the grass was greener somewhere. Instead, I just worked on making sure my grass was always green. You know, and
I've been fertilizing this lawn for 22 years.
Yeah.
I'm not selling it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's so easy to scrap your yard and say I'm going to jump in the other one because it's birder. Yeah, and maybe it is nicer. Maybe there's nicer things, but I'm kind of happy with what I got here. You know, so it's worth fighting for. It's worth sticking around for.
It comes back to the same thing. Everybody has their kitchen cabinet seat down annoyances. I'm not going to trade the annoyances I know for the annoyances I don't know yet. I can tolerate these annoyances for a while, right?
I love that. Yeah.
What does your typical day look like for you?
Those are two very different answers.
Are they really? Okay.
I was going to ask if you ride to work together.
Yeah, you gotta ride to work together.
No, we live about like literally 5 minutes from our office downtown. So yeah, that's never going to happen. We have different sleep schedules, a lot of different.
No, that's
things,
it. That's interesting. So, who gets to work first?
Me.
Well, you're up first.
Yeah, I mean, I get up about 5. Michael works later.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He's that guy who can sit at the computer until 4 in the morning and just get lost in a project. Right?
Yeah.
So there's forgiveness, there's grace that, well, he crushed it last night, so he's going to sleep in a little bit.
Is there though, Todd? Is there?
Yeah, I'm assuming
That's his justification.
In my world, I would want there to be.
8 a.m. meeting means 8 a.m., Todd, not 8:01.
Oh, God. I can
Oh,
never
yeah,
work
you remember your frustration today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be clear, and look, I'll just say this, and this is the reality of this world, is that she's my boss. I mean, she runs the company. So I am the creative director. I handle all things in my area, my space. I have my own team. But at the end of the day, she drives the train, and we're successful because of that, because we have somebody that's the brainchild, you know, that can handle meetings and management and budgets and all those things. If I was in charge of that, we would be on a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Same.
No, I
In a
agree.
box.
I
Same.
get that.
Yeah.
And so, would you say that's the vision, or is that his vision different than what that is?
Living on the
No,
corner?
I think we tried to do that early on. We were our marriage too. I mean, we definitely had a lot of talks about that, like how we wanted things to be. We wanted a traditional marriage and family, and the fact that we would have, the husband as more of the disciplinarian. It was like, you know what I'm saying, Jackie? I don't mean it that way. Don't be all women power on me. We were gonna have roles. We were gonna raise our kids together.
Brand
Okay,
Russo's
how would
going to
you
get
say it?
canceled.
I just think I missed this meeting that we must have had.
It was more nonverbal,
Right. It was a competition he had with himself.
I maybe explained it wrong. How would you
Yes.
explain it?
I would explain that we have a partnership and a marriage and a business. I would say that I am the more disciplinarian with our child. Michael's version of discipline is to fuss at them until he feels better, and then it all is forgiven. There's no consequences for their actions whatsoever.
But when
I
he
don't
when he
think
looks in the
he's
mirror, he's a perfect dad, and he's like mean.
I'm Michael.
He laid down the law.
Yeah.
I'm Michael. I'm you.
I'm the heavy, but yeah, I don't like seeing them sad, so I will immediately raise all punishments as
Yes.
soon as they're done.
Yes, as soon as you're done fussing at them and you feel better, it's over. I actually ground and discipline and
What I meant to say was we had our roles in both places where we both had our strengths and we both had our weaknesses, and I think we found those over time to where they both jump in when appropriate.
Okay,
And
so I have to interrupt you.
better answer.
So far, you're welcome. Thank you. So far, we've seen your weaknesses, but Jackie, do you have any weaknesses?
of course not.
I have many, many weaknesses.
Oh no, she is perfect.
Wow.
Good answer. Right answer, Michael. That's the right answer.
No, it was kind of sarcastic.
No, I mean, we'll start with the fact that I can't cook. If I wasn't married to Michael, I would not have been able to sustain nourishment for my children for all these years.
Yeah.
He's cooked every meal we've had for 22 years.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So, absolutely. We each have our own skill sets. That is his, and he is great at it. We're actually getting ready to do a massive remodel. Todd, when you come back and visit, you're not even going to recognize the house anymore.
Wow.
And we're building an amazing kitchen for him to continue to prepare food
That's
for me.
great. I did tell you, Michael, I can remember certain rooms in the house. I kind of remember the kitchen. I remember there's like a little den off the kitchen that had a TV in it and a couch. And
That's Michael's room.
Oh, is that like that's your like little hangout?
Yes.
Up above the garage, is that still like, is that just guest space or?
My son took that over when he got to
Our-
high school.
Our son.
Yeah, our son.
I do the same thing. I'm like, your bedroom. She goes,
My
"It's our
brother
bedroom."
does that with me. My mom, this. I'm like, it's
Right.
my mom too.
Our.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
okay.
Jackson and Jordan are a year apart, right? So they were in 7th and 8th grade at the same time. And Jordan's a girl, Jackson's a boy. And they each had sleepover simultaneously the same weekend. I'm really good at scheduling. This one I screwed up a little bit. So all of a sudden, we had 10 7th grade girls and 10 8th grade boys in the
Yo.
upstairs away from us at the same time. Jackson moved above the garage the next day.
That's funny.
Wow, what a mess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait to see it.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
I remember seeing during the pandemic, or I shouldn't say that anymore. During 2020, you said, Jackie, that you thought you always kind of visioned that when all the kids were gone, then you don't need this big old house because it's spread out to manage 6 people and friends and pets and stuff. So, but you said, now that I think about it, I don't think I want to live somewhere else. Like I just can change this to make it make sense for an empty nester couple, right?
Yes.
And then grandkids eventually.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, in our playroom, so we're moving the staircase, and so in the playroom where the stairs used to come up, we're kind of filling that in. It's not going to be a hole anymore for the stairwell, and so we're building in bunk beds right there, which is going to be
cool.
awesome for the next generation.
And hold on, Grandpa Todd, easy on the grandkids talk. I know you have grandkids in your life right
I
now. I
got
believe.
5
right?
of them. And
Yeah, see, I'm not ready for that.
What? I've been ready.
Yeah, next
I'll be a
time-
grandma in July,
She'll be a grandma
so
in
for the
July,
first
first
time.
time.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously,
No.
where your kids are right now, it has nothing to do with you. Where your kids are, they don't need to be having no babies right now.
No.
They need to be getting degrees and master's degrees and launching into their careers and making very good decisions.
Yes,
I'm talking to you guys, Jordan, Jackson, what are the other two?
Maggie, Molly.
JJ,
Yep.
So-
I've been busy for the past 4 years scaring away boys, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying the best I can. But I guess one day I'll have to acquiesce and give into that's
After
we'll love another
college.
man.
Yeah.
After
you'll-
college.
You'll know
Yeah,
when that is.
yeah. My daughter waited till after college too, so it just all went by so fast, you know.
My oldest grandchild is 10.
Oh gosh.
But our kids are 28 and 30.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
I'm a kind of generation ahead of you. Or a half generation ahead.
Half, yeah.
Yeah, we got a late start too. We didn't have kids until we were
30.
29, 28, 30, yeah, right around there. And that was, and we were talking about it earlier, like, I mean, there's so many tie-ins when you were on the call the other day with Todd and them, Jackie, but I was reminding him, I said, I had sent this video to my youngest daughter, and I think she got a kick out of it because it was a recording that I found, it's old VHS tape, and it was me in front of an audience in New Braunfels at a show that we were doing up there with you guys. With
I have a
Stan.
sticker on my computer. There's
Oh,
no
can you read the
S
sticker?
in New
No, it's
Braunfels.
backwards. It says there's only one S in New Braunfels.
There's only one S in New Braunfels.
It's a big thing around here because there's a song that.
It's a whole song.
There's a
about
German,
it.
what do you call it?
Anyway, back to your
Organist?
story. Sorry.
Well, I was on stage and we were just finishing our set, and I was thanking everyone. I was like, I want to thank y'all for having us. I want to thank our families who aren't here, and I want to thank my wife who allowed me to come. I said she's 9 months pregnant, and she's pretty much due any day, but she allowed me to come to the show, and I really appreciate her being here. And it was kind of a joke. The audience was kind of like nervously laughing, like, oh my God, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, and I felt the energy in the room, and I was like, it's okay. Look, our kids are always like 2 weeks late. I mean, I just talked to her. We're gonna be fine. I said, I'm hoping, fingers crossed. And everybody got a good laugh out of it. We drive back that night because obviously I want to be back in time in case something happens. My head hits the pillow, and an hour later she's waking me up and saying, we got to go to the hospital.
We're in
And
labor.
I had just made it back in time, and this one came early, like a couple days early. I think.
2 weeks early.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it was
wow.
really kind of crazy, and but it was just that memory was sewn in, and like my daughter, again, they weren't around when we were performing a lot, and when I say performing a
true.
lot, and Sterling knows this, when we were in our heyday of we won district contests and we were traveling, going to international stuff. We were pretty much every weekend booked. We were
Yeah.
all over the place. We were, in local shows, regional shows, even outside of states and across the country.
Yeah.
And we were always performing for like a year straight, or 2 years straight, and that was during the first years of my marriage. So yeah, it was an interesting time, and they weren't part of that. And to
Right.
now to kind of hear that story and hear her name mentioned before she was even born.
That's
On
cool.
the night before, it was just kind of cool, to have that memory there.
What people don't know about McKinley Street, they cram themselves in this barbershop style in order to go to competitions and stuff, and because when you win a contest, you get credibility, and then people want to hire you to come and sing in their town. But they were an a cappella group. They would take songs off the radio and then just figure it out. And
Like
just,
Pentatonics.
yeah, that's how Pentatonics does that. They'll take a song and go, what if you went boom, 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 boom? Okay, then I'll go boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah, that works. And they just sit there and create. And that's what they did. And they did it with Paul Simon. They did it with Stray Cat. They did it with all kinds of stuff. So they were unique. They were a breath of fresh air. You hear, songs about Mammy and songs about Dixie and songs about the girl. And then they come along and do, more of an a cappella, fun, cool thing.
About
so they were
breakfast
cool.
cereal.
About breakfast cereal.
Yeah, we were doing acapella cool before it was cool, before it really wasn't cool, and nobody thought it was cool but us. If that makes sense.
That
So
makes
we were,
zero sense.
I know. We thought we were really popular and hip, and then we realized that it's this story, Todd. We go to these shows on weekends, and we're talking
You're like heroes.
hundreds of people,
Yeah.
400 to 500 people, right? Everybody knows you. You don't know them. You're signing autographs. You're like, oh my God, it's Sterling. It's McKinley Street, and they all want to know you and be around you and sing a song for us. And then you go back home, and your wife's like, hey, get the garbage. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. So you get this little moment of glory, like a hint of what it's like to be somewhat famous, in a bubble.
Yeah.
And then you step out of that bubble, and it's just, I'm going back to work.
Yeah, you go through a lobby in a hotel in Dallas, and you can't walk 3 feet without somebody stopping you, and you're like, wow, I want to go like back roads because I can't get through the lobby to go to the restaurant, and that makes you feel like a little bitty celebrity. And then you get home and you're not.
We're trying to have that here in town. It's not working yet.
Yeah, she's pretty
Well,
much
do you
like
know
that in
us?
our town.
Yeah,
Like
we have a
y'all
show.
walking down the street. Hey, that's those people.
Yeah, they don't do that for us yet.
Well, if y'all ever do take another vacation, you should come to our town.
It's pronounced New Braunfels.
We're actually going there this year. Our school, our alumni school here,
Louisiana
University
Raging
of Indiana,
Cajuns.
Occasions. We are playing Texas in the fall.
Texas State or Texas University
No,
of Texas?
the University of Texas at Austin.
Oh, so that's like
Torn down.
That's what we call a guaranteed win.
Nope.
We put them on
No,
the
my
season.
friend. We beat
put 'em
Iowa
early.
State last year.
Mm-hmm.
We beat Iowa State by 20 last year.
We have Sarkeesian now.
Horn down.
Yeah.
Horn down.
I was trying to be nice to the Raging
Show you
Cajuns.
well. Horn down.
We're on the rise, man. We were ranked last year. It's a good
We're
time.
still ranked. We're ranked 15.
Hey, are y'all the same conference as UTSA?
Yes.
Yes.
They're getting better too, so that's gonna
Yes.
be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Well,
Both
and
conferences
Coastal
have been better.
Carolina's good, and App State's good. I mean, we've got
San
some.
Marcos.
this
the one in
is
San Marcos.
Texas State.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not in the same conference, are they?
No, we're
Okay.
Texas State and UTA, University of Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got
Arlington.
it. So we're in the UTSA is different. Okay, so you see how passionate they got when we started talking about their school and their football team.
Yeah.
There's
We are kind of weird like that. Jackie more than I am, but we have season tickets to baseball, football, and I think we had them to basketball for a while, but
We
we
did.
didn't have enough time. But no, we're big fan. I mean, they're in our home, they're our home school, and there's a lot of good things happening at that university now.
Mhm.
Our whole town, Lafayette's kind of under a renaissance right now. We're kind of like the shining light in the hill in Lafayette,
Yeah.
in Louisiana, and a lot of good stuff happening. So
yeah,
it's good.
they're. I guess you would really say that Lafayette is more like San Marcos because Texas State is there, and
Because
it's
there's a
kind of a
university.
town built around a university.
We'll get one soon.
Yeah,
How big is Texas State?
they're big. They used to be like 30, 40,000.
Okay. Yeah, then that would be the equivalent because we're 20.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And y'all, that's one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever been on. It's gorgeous
It is.
there.
What,
Pretty.
Texas State and San Marcos?
Yeah.
I drove there through there recently to help a friend drop off her daughter. It was
Okay,
awesome.
I'm going to get us back on track, which is unusual. But this is like we could go on for hours, and we all have things to do. I have Sterling Quartet rehearsal in an hour, 45 minutes. And what I mean is we're going to have a couple of beers and
Right.
barbecue and hang out in my backyard.
Right.
Um,
Rehearsal.
Rehearsal.
Michael and Cody are going to rehearse later on a golf course.
Oh yes. Yeah, tell Cody I said hi.
I will.
I love him. Okay, so we are going to wrap it up. But as we told Michael, he may or may not have told Jackie.
He did
You
not.
know, this is the Good Gossip Podcast. We like to brag and share good stories about people, because we need more of that in the world, and we believe that's productive gossip. So we want to ask you guys, either collectively or individually, to share some good gossip about someone in your life.
Brag on somebody.
Brag on somebody.
Mike, I'll let you go first.
Nope.
He's like, I knew, but I still.
Well, then I'll go first. And I will pick our daughter, Maggie, who is graduating from high school on Monday. She's got a huge scholarship to the University of Louisiana. Go Cajuns. She'll be our second fourth-generation Raging Cajun. And she's a really unique, special, awesome kid. I got to spend the past week with her, chaperoning her senior trip with 12 of her best friends. And
I went to Florida.
Disney World. Not the beach, Disney World. And so we were Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios for the whole week. And to watch them interact, she is the central force of her group. And she's the negotiator. She's the person who checks on everybody else and makes sure they're okay. She's absent-minded as all get out and can't find her own shoes and keys. But I tell you what, every time we left that Airbnb, she made sure everybody had their mask and had their ears and was ready to go. And it was really sweet.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Cool. It's fun to brag on our little adults, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As they become that.
And then when they see this, they're going to be so proud.
Yeah. And the others are going to be jealous.
Sure.
So, Michael, you don't have to pick one of your kids. Tell us somebody that just kind of blows your mind, and tell us a story.
I thought about that. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of things, but I'm talking to you right now, and I'd like to talk about, you actually, and Sterling. It's like, only because I appreciate the fact that I got a call from Todd the other day, a message, and said, hey, I love you having a podcast. And just talking to you, it feels like I talked to you yesterday, Todd.
Yeah.
And it's probably been like 10 years since we've actually spoken vocally,
Yeah.
But the fact that you're doing this, the fact that you're taking this leap and you're using your gifts, and both you and Melissa, to really, for no other reason than to better the world a little bit. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It really is. That you're not here to push. You haven't mentioned your real estate agency once, and you haven't mentioned the name of your company once, Melissa. But you guys are doing something that is just to put a little bit of good in the world. And I applaud that, and I respect it. And that's one of the reasons Jack and I were both excited to be on here, because, like I said, we have things to talk about, but we enjoy being part of things. Like, we try to do those things too. And I just respect and appreciate it. And it goes all the way back to whenever I remember we were still in college, and we were at one of our first contests, and we were so nervous, not knowing what the hell we were doing. We were so bad. We really were. We didn't even qualify for there's 2 nights of 2 rounds, and we didn't even qualify for the next night. It was so bad. But in the next room, we heard these guys singing, warming up, and we're like, oh my God, who is that? And what is going on? And they were literally next door. And we met up with them, and they were so nice. They were so welcoming. They were so positive, and that really changed the course, because we may have never gone back again if we didn't find that kind of welcoming, that kind of reception. And it means a lot. Like I said, they were so far ahead of us, and but they didn't look down on us. They encouraged us. They sang song tags with us. They taught us things, and we wanted to go back to see them. And we started this 10-year relationship where we went to these contests, and we couldn't wait to see our friends,
Yeah.
And that was the biggest motivator for that. So for that and for this, I'm gonna say you, Todd, and the boys of Sterling.
Gosh. Ross Larison, Randy Fly, Justin Oxley, thank you. That's very sweet. I almost got emotional.
Yeah, I thought you were crying. I thought you were wiping a tear.
No, sorry.
No allergies.
That was very
Well,
touching.
I mean every word of it, definitely.
Thank you.
Well, thanks
Well,
for
obviously I'm
coming on
drawn
the
to you
show.
guys. I've always cared about you and the guys. When I told them what I was doing, they were like, yes, I can't wait to listen to it. And I bet none of them have ever listened to any of my podcasts, because they're jerks, and they'll listen to this one. I promise you that.
By the way, that's how we get new listeners. We invite people on that have friends that will probably listen.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
We gain 5 new listeners every time we have a show.
Definitely.
What were you going to say, Michael?
I'll grab you off air. I'll tell you, I had an idea for you. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're going to post all the links to all the things in the notes of this on YouTube, and in the notes on Apple. Of course, you can find us on Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, pretty much.
Yeah.
And downloadable things, and then subscribe to YouTube. We're up to almost 70 or so on YouTube, and if we get to 100, it's like special, get millions of dollars.
And our little self plug for you again, if you happen to be listening and you want to help your marketing out and you have some entertainment on the way, our book is He Said, She Said Branding, and it's on Amazon, and I would definitely go check it out because,
Yes.
like I said, I think you'll get a lot out of it. It's
We'll
not
put
just
the
we're not
link.
making money off of it. Yeah, there's little money in writing a book, by the way. So we're not making cash, but we do think it'll help you with your branding.
But I like the fact that once you get through the funny, cool, how is it to work with your spouse, it does get into kind of the heartbeat of what you do, and from a branding perspective, someone, if they're smart enough, could probably read that book and it would help their business. And so, right.
Absolutely.
And then if they love it, they could even subscribe to the university and start getting some more stuff, maybe even some private coaching.
And you have a community as well that you invite them
Absolutely.
to. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
Two
And
times
so-
a month strategy sessions where I sit and go through and help them figure out what to do.
That's awesome. It's totally remote. You can do it from your computer. So that's really great. We'll make sure we put all that stuff in the listing.
Thanks.
All right.
And thanks for having us, y'all. This was a
You're
pleasure.
welcome. Thank
Yes,
you. You're
us
an
too.
easy guest. You're fun.
We
All
try.
right. Till next time, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about us. Tell us if you want to have somebody on the show.
Talk good about somebody.
Talk good about somebody this week.
It'll
See you
make
then.
their day.